Hey guys, how you all doing? Um, so I'm doing something similar to what I was doing last week. I know that I'm just going to play with the mic, so bear with me for a minute if the noise gets a bit classy for a few moments. I just need to make sure that everything is going as it's supposed to be. Gonna hear some weird sounds for a few more seconds. I just gotta. Okay, Coolio. Here we go. Alright, so I'm kind of working on animated character avatars for the characters that appear in scenes. So I had an animation, I wasn't happy with it, so I'm just going to tweak it a little bit. So I'm just making some just minimize the amount the legs moving so it's sort of more drifting backwards and forwards and not swinging for miles, which is what it was doing before. So it looked like she was having some kind of seizure rather than just sort of wobbling her feet backwards and forwards. So now we're just going to go back to frame 0 and do the same for the other leg. So that's 104. Two, 100, back to 100 again. 101. 102. There we go, so that should be a little bit more of a gentle movement, a little bit more of a gentle motion. Yeah. Do a quick play test. There we go. Much better. So we'll hit render on that and let that tick away. How you doing, Mr. House? I'm good. I'm wearing glasses so I can see everything that's going on now, so that's awesome. Okay, so that's no good. Right, marvellous. So this is just rattling through those frames before I put together the film strip of the animation. I hope you're having a decent Saturday anyway, Mr. House. It's Sunday even. Hoping you're having a decent day. It's been a fairly productive weekend for me so far, but this close to Christmas, everybody's kind of rushing around like crazy trying to get their Christmas shopping and stuff done. I'm going to be moving my microphone about for a minute just so I can pour myself a drink. In time to get this started. How you doing, Senk? No worries, man. I'm glad that you're finding him useful. I've actually been doing a bit of Ren'Py videoing today. I did the one that I have uploaded today about using video, declaring a video so that you can use it like an image. And I'm going to be doing a little bit of it during this live stream, actually. A little bit of Ren'Py, rather explaining how I've achieved certain things. So hopefully you won't be too disappointed. Thanks for coming along anyway. Thank you again for Senk as well. I don't know if I'm saying your name right at all. Is it Senk or Kenk or something else? Hey, it's very kind of you. Very kind of you, Mr. Hauser. So I've had a few emails from people who've sent me renders. Sensi, not a problem. I can call you Sensi. I'll just try and remember. So if I do call you Kenk or something like that, I apologise. Sensi's fine. I'll do my best to remember. But thank you for everyone who's watching, whether you're taking part in the chat or not. Obviously, I'd like to welcome everybody and encourage anyone who is watching. Feel free to get stuck in the chat. That's what we're here for. You can never tell with people's online names, can you? It's a funny one. I do my best to try and pronounce things how I think people intend them to, but it doesn't always come out. At least yours is just one word. You get people who've got like an entire sentence as their username. Makes it very difficult to pronounce sometimes. Of course, not everybody speaks English either, so that makes things a little bit more tricky, but I'll give you everyone a quick demo of what I'm actually doing here. So I will launch. I'm kind of doing some more animations and stuff. So I'm just going to demonstrate what I've been doing today. So we drop this in. So as you can see, it's a simple sort of, this is like the first part of one of my games. And there's not much happening. I've changed how the characters are displayed in Deeper, so they're actually now part of a screen rather than just being part of the image. So now what's happened is, because I've got them set up as part of a screen, and I do apologise if you're offended by a single female nipple on the screen, but there you go. So now, because I've got them defined like that, you get a name tooltip appear when you hover the mouse over them, but also I've included support into my code that checks if I've got a animation film strip file, so that when you hover over somebody, as you can see, it's very subtle, but she starts moving, she starts breathing when you hover over her, and then when you take the mouse away again, she stops. So it just kind of, it's really subtle, but it does the job. So if I load the afternoon one, you can see this is the animation that I'm currently working on. You can see she's laying on the couch, and what I didn't like was that the magazine was for some reason wobbling, and also her feet are kind of doing this crazy thing. They just look a bit too, she looks like she's having some kind of a seizure. So I've got rid of that animation file, and I've just done the renders for a new one. So yeah, so that's what I've been doing here anyway, and I'm going to go through the process of putting together the Photoshop file in just a second. It's just hit 8 o'clock, so I can officially start now. So again, welcome to everybody who's watching. Feel free to jump in and give us a hello in the chat. Just let me know you're here. If you've got any questions, feel free to chuck them in. So I'm going to go to the renders that people sent me earlier. I'll start off with yours, Sensi, since you're here. I do apologise if you weren't expecting to be to have your work displayed, but I thought I'd do it. So this is I've had 4 in total from 3 different people. So if you want me to show your work on the stream, and obviously I'm going to talk about each picture, then give me an email at dev@thundorm.com. It's listed in the community channel, the communities tab on the channel, so feel free to have a look there. Send me an email with your renders if you want me to look at your renders and make comments and stuff, and I'll do my best. I'm not going to do a full breakdown of each image and stuff. I'm going to kind of just briefly talk about them and give any tips that I can sort of think of. So alrighty, so in terms of lighting, this picture is pretty good. I like it. I like what we've done here, Sensi. You've got the street lights coming in, the outside lights coming in through the window, and it's creating that nice highlight on the floor. And you can also see it's catching her hand and her leg. And then obviously you've got the interior lighting coming in from the other side, and there's an interesting contrast between the colour of the interior lighting, which is very red, and the outside light, which is obviously very white. The pose is pretty good. This hand, her left hand, I suppose you could probably play with that a little bit. Just maybe make the hand, I think it's the hand gesture itself, it sort of looks a bit stiff. But like overall, I really like the image. I think it's really solid. The hair is resting on the body nicely. It's not an ugly image. But yeah, you know, tweak the hand maybe, and it'll look much better. Maybe have it resting on the lap or something. I can probably do that for you, Mr. House. Yeah, if you send us an email, I'll do what I can. So this next one is from Christian Jayed. So if you're watching now, Christian, feel free to say hello. If not, you're probably watching this afterwards. So again, I like this. It's an interesting, you've obviously got an interesting funky background going on. This one I think, hey, no worries, Sensi. This one I think I need more context for, because it's from a technical standpoint, the lighting's good. She's well lit. She's got, you know, her hands are resting on the surface. They're not clipping through, which is nice. So in terms of the pose itself, I can't really comment because I don't know what she's posing. You know, if she's posing for like a portrait, then having a stiff back would be kind of more appropriate. So you know, the pose could be good, could be a little bit more relaxed. It depends on the context of the image. She's got nice solid eye contact with the camera as well. I'm going to assume that I can see a bit of grain, but I've sort of put that down to the image being compressed to be sent by email. But it's again, it's a nice image. I like it. The lighting's very good. The exposure's solid. It doesn't look unrealistic in terms of the character and all that sort of thing. Yeah, you should be happy with this, man. It's good. If I was going to say any kind of feedback I'd give, I'd say maybe leave the render to bake for a little bit longer, just in case this grain is because of the number of iterations, just because it's a little bit grainy. But man, it's a good image, like it. So I've got 2 from Michael Buckley. So if you're watching, Michael, say hello. If you're not watching now, I'll obviously watching this back later. So this one's kind of cool. I like the styling in this. It's very it's a sexy image, but at the same time it's got kind of a quirky feel to it, and like good decent contact with the feet on the floor. There's no clipping. It looks like she's actually standing on those shoes. The pose is really good. The lighting is fantastic. It looks natural. The props and everything are obviously appropriate to the outfit as a whole. One thing I would say about with having hands on surfaces like that is pay very close attention to detail, because when obviously you've gone for realism here and it looks really good, really good. I'm obviously stretching, trying to find some sort of advice to offer you. Is just maybe push the hands down a fraction more, just so that there's no air gap between the fingers and the slab, only because the hands are obviously very soft on the inside and it would be a little bit more pushed down against the surface. So clipping on that surface is actually not a terrible thing to achieve. But overall, this is a really solid image. I love it. Really like it. And then there's this one, again, also Michael, and again, really solid image. Hello, Seven. How you doing, man? Excellent. I'll be checking my emails momentarily. So again, this one really good, and this one I like in terms of, because you're not showing the hands on a solid surface, you're not getting that air gap between them, so it looks like they're making solid contact with the surfaces that they're on. Yeah, it's good. Again, really love the lighting and the styling. It's good. Honestly, I'm struggling to find things to pick up for in here. The shaders are very solid as well. I like the skin shaders. It looks like it's actual skin, which is great. A lot of the time, especially recently, I've been tweaking with my shaders and a lot of my renders, because you go back over them and you sort of see fault in your own work, and we're all our own harshest critics. The only thing that I can see in this image that I would personally do a bit differently is just the hand content on the leg. Maybe have it a little bit more firmly planted, either in the ball of the hand, the palm of the hand, or with the fingers, just because she's kind of stroking her leg in an unusual way. But again, that might just be a contextual thing. But yeah, I really like this image, really solid. So I'm going to quickly pull up my email. So I apologise if any weird and wonderful things start happening to the stream while I'm doing that. So I've got a new Brenda from Mr. House. So let's pull this up, and I'm going to save it so that I can load it up. So let's have a look at Mr. House's image. Okie dokie. So let's fine tooth comb you want me to look at this with them. So again, the lighting's really solid. I like it. The skin shader, I think you've got your it's hard to tell. The light coming in is definitely white because you can see it's reflecting on the other surfaces. I would say that maybe just have a little bit of a play with your shaders and just maybe have a tweak with them. That's all I can say. Because it could be one of many things, but I'm just noticing that her skin's got a kind of a vaguely transparent sort of feel to it. Hey Samir, how you doing? You went to bed a little early. That's cool. So yeah, I really like the image. The lighting is solid. The pose is good. She doesn't look unnatural. She's got good solid contact with her leg and the hand there. She looks like she's actually resting her elbow on her hip, which is, it's good. It's the only thing that's sort of leaping out at me as something that I would personally tweak is just the skin shader. A little bit of tweaking just to get rid of that kind of I'm trying to think of the word for it now. I'm having a brain fart because I'm if I pull up this I can remember what the flipping proper is called. I'm having a what you would call a brain fart. Yeah, translucency, that's the one. The skin on the translucency just looks a fraction too high. We're talking kind of 0.1. If you just reduced it by 0.1, I think it would make her skin look just a little bit more human. That's the only thing I would say about that one. But yeah, really like the image. The outfit, everything's kind of draped well. It looks nice, man. Very, very, you should be proud of this one. So let's have a look and see what Hella7 has sent to me. So, crikey, I've got quite a few here to work through. So if I just copy those into a folder. I'm sort of talking you through what I'm doing so you don't think I've just gone silent and forgotten everybody. So let's have a looky. Right, so we've got this one, which is blue in school. It's a dragon. Very good. So I'm going to sort of skim through them and then come back to them because you've done quite a few. So we've got a lady in a bar. A lady in a massage table. It's kind of a salon looking image. A guy doing some martial arts. And the last one is a guy swimming away from a shark. Okay, so I'll start off with this one. No, don't cringe, man. It's all good. It's all good. So I was reading the comments as I was thinking. Sorry, it's because of the delay. The delay is not ideal. I might have to stop using Restream and just stream straight to YouTube and see if that speeds things up a little bit. Alright, so I'll start off with this one. Obviously the pose the guy's in is great. It looks like he's sort of running out of shallow water. Oh, there we go. You have indeed sent me a text file. Open that with Notepad. Cool. Right, so Trouble made the scene 7 months ago, testing Daz's capabilities. Oh, well, that's very kind of you. Remade it just for me. So yeah, this one, movement in water is really hard to do. Because obviously, unless you've got a dynamic surface, you don't get the ripples in the water and all that sort of thing. So it's really hard to do. So what you need to do, and this is me speaking generally, not giving you direct advice on this one, is present the viewer with something else to look at, which you've obviously done. You've got the big angry shark there. So the character's eye is kind of drawn up towards the shark rather than looking at what's going on around the character's torso. If I were going to do anything to this image, what I would probably do is either in post add a lot of splashes around his torso to make it look like he's creating ripples, or kind of add some kind of there's, you know, you can get like the water splashes and things like that that you can put in, just to disturb the water around the guy a little bit more. To be honest, most of the stuff that you would do in this one you'd be doing in post, because it's very difficult to get that really disturbed kind of frothy water effect. So yeah, I would do this in Photoshop, is just get loads of stock images of sort of splashing water that's really been frothed up and disturbed, and just throw it in around the place to make it look like the guy and the shark are sort of charging through the water a bit more quickly, because it's it looks kind of like a bit glassy, the water around here. So let's go back to this one. This one's cool. The lighting is really nice and soft. I like it a lot. What I think you could probably do within this one is some kind of backlighting, some rim lighting. Yeah, well, you've got two RTX 2080s. You can bang out renders that fast. So what I would do with this guy is to separate him from the black background. Is oh well, there you go. Something I've said has been useful is put another ghost light behind him, so that it creates a highlight around the top of his head and around his feet, so that you can separate him. You're not losing him into the black background. It just gives you that little bit of separation. But the pose, the expression, the soft lighting, it all looks really good, man. All looks very good. So let's have a look. The sauna of a massage parlour. Yeah, it gives you kind of like it gives you a nice bit of separation. I tell you what I'll do is, if I save this and I create a new scene, I can sort of quickly demonstrate it. Yeah, the skin looks really solid in that image. It's really nice shader work. I don't know if you tweak that shader yourself or anything like that. Yeah, it looks really nice. So let's have a look. Bought this massage parlour off Daz and decided you didn't like it as it was, so you edited it to your liking and a preference of how you thought it should look. Also featured a scene in The Bet, which is the game you're making. So lighting is really nice. I like it. You've got the rim light, or the sort of the detail light underneath the furniture, which looks really nice. It creates a really interesting contrast, having red and blue. Yeah, man, they are good. They're definitely good. What I would say about this is, if as a photographer, hey, awesome, how you doing, man? Well, as a photographer, I spend a lot of time looking at the color wheel. So let me just pull up an image of the color wheel. Cool. Right, so on the color wheel, what the purpose of this color wheel is, and I really do apologize if I'm teaching anybody to suck eggs here, is colors that complement each other sit opposite each other. So yellow and blue complement each other quite well. Reds and blues, they look okay. And this is just something that we do. So the red and blue do complement each other, absolutely. But what they tend to, the image they tend to conjure up is maybe like a police, the lights on the top of a police car, they're always red and blue. So that you kind of develop that association, subconsciously in your head. So I'm not saying that that's what's wrong with this image. Obviously, I'm just kind of thinking that maybe I'm wondering what this image would look like if you had the images slightly dulled, or if you had this slightly closer to the yellow in the spectrum, and this maybe a bit further along. Just to kind of mellow out the colours, because what I think is as when you go to a sort of a spa or a salon, everything's like mega chill, mega relaxed, and so colours like green and yellow are a little bit more common, because the yellow is a happy colour and green is a kind of a mellow colour. Blue is kind of a cool colour, and red is kind of the emotion that it makes you feel maybe not conducive to what you get in a spa. But having said that, I'm not saying that the colours don't work in this image, and maybe they're relevant to the scene in your game. But I would say try experimenting with the colour wheel and having a look at what kind of colours are used in relaxing environments and stuff, and see what you come up with. But yeah, the render's really solid. I'm liking the overall quality is really solid, man. What's next? So this is a small minor character in your game. You just liked the way she looked, essentially. That's cool. Again, I like this. And this looks fairly realistic because you've got the sunlight coming in through the window and you're not leaning too much into the interior lighting, although you have got a little bit, standard kind of coffee shop set. She's quite a sort of, she's she's got a porn game character kind of feel to her, with the tattoos and the big boobs and all that, which kind of I like, obviously. Again, render quality is really solid. Again, try experimenting with maybe throwing a spotlight behind her, just to give you that little bit of highlight along the backs of her limbs. It just gives you again that little, like, her upper body stands out really nicely, so if you were trying to draw attention to her chest and her arm, then mission accomplished. But if you want her legs to stand out, maybe and her bum, obviously, maybe throw in a spotlight behind her just to give her that little bit of separation from the background. So alright, here we go. So if I just quickly open up, I'll just throw one of my characters into this scene. This is just, I'm just going to quickly throw something together. This is not me trying to, I'll throw Bella in. So yeah, I'll have a look at your next one while that's loading, because that's going to take a minute. So the dragon in the school. This is, I feel like you've got a strong overhead light, kind of a big plane, illuminating the whole scene, because the shadows are very soft, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. And obviously having something like a dragon in the scene is, who knows what a dragon really looks like. It's an imaginary cat, it's an imaginary creature, so you can't say whether the textures look unrealistic or not. It just doesn't work that way. I like it as solid. Again, what I would say is maybe in post-production, play around with this is your 13-year-old daughter, and a dragon she created with Daz for pictures with her model. So, again, I like the image, definitely, and the dragon looks cool, absolutely. And so she's named the dragon after you. Oh, that's cool. I like that. So yeah, what I would say is this image is solid. Don't change anything necessarily in the render settings, but maybe stick it into post-production like Photoshop or something like that, and just have a little play with the contrast, just to give a little bit more of a dimension to everything, because you've got a really soft lighting source and it's really well lit. But it kind of makes, because the image is so well lit across the visual spectrum, it's kind of like it washes it out, makes it look a little bit flat. So if you just take it into Photoshop and just yank up the contrast by kind of like 10%, that would give a little bit more of that depth. And it would make it look a little bit darker, yeah. So where are we at? Right, Bella's in the scene. Let's give her some hair. Yeah, of course. You don't, I mean, you know, kids, you don't want to stifle a kid's imagination, do you? If she wants to make a big bright yellow dragon to, you know, then that's absolutely up to her, and that's totally cool. And like I say, I wouldn't change anything in the scene itself at all, but you know, just have a little bit of a play with the contrast and see what comes out. So I'm just going to give her some clothes so I don't get in too much trouble from the YouTube police. Wardrobe, literally just any old thing will do. First thing that I see. Cool, right, okay, so what we've got in your scene is, I'm just going to create a sphere. I'm going to make it like a meter. I'm going to drag it up, and I'm going to go probably about here, and I'm going to turn it into a light. Hope everyone's paying attention who hasn't watched my Ghost Lights video. There will be an exam at the end of this. And that's going to be 0.0001. Quickly throw this into Iray and just check that that's worked. If anyone is wondering, I'm amazed, honestly, the number of people who've seen renders of Bella. How few people seem to have actually sussed out that she's based on a real life person. Alright, so bring that across a little bit more. Alright, I know what's going on. We've got an HDRI going on here. Scene only. Cool. That's more like it. So I'm going to yank that up to 500 maybe. Cool. That's very kind of you, Samir. Very kind. Right, so what we've got here is a model with a dark background, and it's cool, but like your martial arts guy, where she's wearing dark clothes and she's got dark hair, we're kind of losing a bit of her in the background. So if I come back into texture shaded mode for a minute, and I'm going to create another ghost light, and I'm going to make this one probably 0.5 of a meter, and I'm going to just jank that so it's literally right up behind her, probably a bit lower down. And then in the surfaces tab, turn this one into a ghost light as well. And I'm not gonna change the value of the brightness at all yet. So let's stick this in NVIDIA Iray and see what it does. Okay, what have I got? KCDMR2. Let's go around the back and check that it's actually illuminating her from behind. It is. I need to make it a shade bigger and a shade brighter. So I come up to here and I'm going to change that to maybe like 2500. And then in the scale, I'm going to make that 200%. So what we've got now, I moved the camera too bloody much. There we go. So what we've got now is that little bit of light now behind her is just adding that bit of shape. It's still not reflecting on her boots, which is something that we can probably fix by moving the light down a little bit, but it's just creating that bit of separation from the background and giving her a little bit more depth. It's just making her look a little bit more three-dimensional. So that's essentially what I was sort of getting at with the whole using a rim light. You can sort of achieve the same thing with a spotlight or two spotlights, but you'd need to make them quite bright in order to be able to illuminate. See if we turn off both of these. I have to turn on the right. There we go. It just stops the highlight when I hover the mouse over it. Yeah, but that's essentially what I was getting at with that one anyway. Throwing a light in behind the character just gives you that little bit of depth. Yeah, cool. So I'm going to come back out of iRay mode. There, back into texture shaded mode. Cool. So yeah, and in terms of this one, just have a little bit of a play with the contrast, man. See what you come sort of achieve. So what was I about to do? Yes, Photoshop. So I've got those renders now, and I'm going to turn them into, I need to get rid of that, and I'm going to create a new file. I've already got the dimensions set up, so I'm not going to faff around with that. So I did those renders for that animation. Those of you that were here half an hour ago will have seen me doing that. So I've got 7 or 8 images. This is only a 1-second animation, and it kind of going around in a loop. And all I have to do is drag them onto the file as a group, and then it'll cycle through them one at a time. The reason I'm doing this and not automating it is that when I'm automating it, for some reason it's cropping off the top of the image so that they're out of position, which is a bit annoying. Hey, no worries, man. No worries. You know, just guys, send me your images to the email, and in my live streams I'll give you what advice I can, and you know, give you some feedback. I'm not by any means an expert, but if I see anything that I can help out with, then obviously I will do my best. Right, so it'll do these, put these in the file one at a time. So I'm going to change the anchor point to the top left, so its X is always going to be 0. And for the first image, that will be 0 as well. We hit our tick. The next one comes in. Change our anchor point to top left. This one, because it's the second image, is going to be 1080. This is where I have to do a bit of mental arithmetic. The next one, X0, 1080 times 2 is 2160. Top left again. So the next one is going to be 3240. Took me a second there. 04320. Top left. This one's going to be 5400. Top left again. This is going to be 6480. And this one will be 7560. Cool, so that's got all of those in place in the film strip. So now we just turn off the background and export as a PNG 8. So that'll keep the file size quite small. We've got the Motel Aft animation. That name will become more apparent in a moment. Right, so that's bunging that out. So we'll have a look at the RenPy code now. So this is the new way that I'm putting characters on the screen. Before I was just loading the images if they were in the room, but that wasn't working for me. So because I wanted to be able to do more with them. So I'm going to talk you through this script. So if you're not here for the RenPy, I apologize for the next 5 minutes. So we've defined the screen, character screen. And what we're saying is that this variable is the name of the location plus the time of day. So time of day is a variable that I declare elsewhere in the game, and it says if the time is between 5 and 12, then the time of day is morn. If it's between 1 and 6, it's aft for afternoon. If it's between 7 and midnight, it's evening. And if it's between midnight and 6, it's night, or times along those lines anyway. So what we're generating here is a string that says the location. So in the case of this scene that I'm working on at the moment, it would be the motel, and then it would be the time of day. So it would be motel underscore morn or motel underscore aft. So that's that variable created. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Right, so the next step, what we're doing now is we're cycling through, we're creating a loop that loops through all of the NPCs. So every character in the game now, other than Jake himself, is part of this NPC group or a list of NPCs. So it'll cycle through every member of that list. If they're present, i.e. if they're in the room, then we create a, I don't know why that's got so many spaces in it. Then we're creating a new string which consists of the file path to the files that we're going to use. Then the name of the character, so it would be characters underscore slash location avatar slash, in this case it would be mum underscore Jake location time of day. So it's looking specifically for that file. So location avatars, as you can see, mum motel morn.png, mum motel eve.png, mum motel aft work.png. So that's that. So what we're saying now is that if each character has got a trigger or a value in their class that's topless, so if Jake has talked that character into going topless in certain locations, then we're saying if that has happened and this is in the topless location, so there's only certain locations that characters can be topless, like the beach, the motel pool, stuff like that. So if they are allowed to be topless and they're in a location, then we're going to add NT, standing for no top, to the end of the file name. However, if in the case, for example, with Sarah, who's sick at the start of the game, then we'll add sick to the end of it, because they've also got a status flag in each character. Otherwise, we just turn the variable that we've declared on this top line here into another string. Yeah, I think there's some all right. So we take that string and we create another string and we add Annie.png to it. So we're saying we've declared a file location and then we've created a copy of it and we've added the Annie to the end of it. And then we've said that there's another variable. We're creating a lot of variables in this loop, but it will all make sense. We're saying Annie equals false. So we're checking to see in this line if the animation file exists or not. If the animation file does exist, then we are declaring a film strip animation variable using these values here, like so, and then we're saying Annie equals true. Next we're moving on and we're adding a .png to the end of the file name that we declared up here, and then we're creating a if renpy loadable strt. Basically, if this file exists, then we're going to put a button on the screen, and the idle, so when the mouse isn't hovered over it, will be this file. If Annie, if we've said yeah there is an animation file, we've said Annie equals true, then we're using this animation as our button. Otherwise, we will just use the same as the idle button for the hover, so there won't be an animation. Then we're going to say focus mask true, so it'll only for hover, the mouse action will only activate when the mouse is hovering over pixels that have no alpha on them, i.e. visible pixels. Null action at the moment, I'll add an action in later, so at the moment clicking on them does nothing, and hovering the mouse over them sets the tooltip to be the character's name. Now, if you're still with me, I realised that was quite a lot, and I'm not 100% like great at explaining because I feel like I'm pushed for time. I sort of stumbled through that a little bit. Assuming that you've understood what I've said there, if we go to this, it takes a couple of seconds to load, and then now when we hover over it, because there's an animation file, it's playing the animation when we hover the mouse over her. And because there's no animation file for Sarah when she's laying in bed, as you can see, it does nothing. It just shows the same image for hovered and not hovered. And then obviously the same thing happens when we load this one. Did I do that? Oh, I saved over it. Never mind. So yeah, that's essentially what's happening. Bit complicated. A lot of sort of mind gymnastics to actually make it work, but I think you'll agree, as subtle as the effect is, it just adds a little bit of something to the game when the mouse is hovered over. So yeah, that's really all there is to it. This entire bit of code here does that. It puts the characters on the screen and makes them either hover sensitive or not. And if I wanted to make them do something when I clicked on them, I could just change where it says null action and put an action in. Maybe go into a loop that only shows dialogue with that specific character or something. Yeah, small details, it makes all the difference. It just a little bit of extra flavour. So where do we get to? So yeah, we've created that, we've exported it into that folder. So let's just a little bit of movement. It just, yeah. All right, so we're going to have to play through a quick scene. I'll skip through all that so you don't have to see it. There we go. So now when we hover the mouse over it, you can see just a little bit of movement. I'm not sure what's going on with her top. Maybe I'll have to redo the animation again, but a little bit of movement in the feet. And there's some artifacts around the room apparently. Oh, it's the shadow. I need to cut that bit of shadow off because it's making the animation trigger when you're all the way over here. But yeah, that's basically all there is to that. That's what I've been doing with most of my day today. Thinking about the code, putting the code in, and yeah, that's that. It's in terms of setting up the render, the most difficult part of setting it up is because the character's in different places in the room. It's easier to create an HDRI of for each animation than it is to try and render out 23 frames or 8 frames with all of the scenery included in the so I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll open up the file that I was just working with. I hope everybody's still with me. I've thrown a lot of random information. So let's just quickly scan back through the comments. So yeah, Tyranno Builder, I have seen a couple of games that were started on Tyranno Builder, and it seems like a lot of people who start on there migrate over to Unity. I've never used it, so I couldn't possibly comment and I wouldn't want to. I'm not qualified to comment on whether Tyranno Builder is good or not. For games that were, one game that springs to mind would be Timestamps. Motkey started with Tyranno Builder and then sort of jumped ship over to Unity. So yeah, he was having a few problems with Tyranno Builder as far as I know, and that's why he jumped over to Unity, and I think he teamed up with a couple of actual programmers. Oh, that's fair enough. To be honest, Ren'Py is the only reason I stick with Ren'Py is because it's kind of allows you to do direct Python in it as well, so you can do more advanced stuff with it. I don't know what you can and can't do with Tyranno Builder. You might be able to delve into code in that as well. You know, you don't just have to, with Ren'Py, you don't just have to stick with dialogue. You can put all kinds of wacky game logic in there and create, like I showed you, screens that do all kinds of bonkers things. And you can create, basically you can use pure Python within reason. Obviously you're limited because it's not Python 3, it's Python 2.7 I think. So a lot of the more modern documentation isn't necessarily useful. But yeah, I've got quite a lot of scripts. I've got into the habit now of creating a new script file for every screen and things like that. Mainly drag and drop instead of coding unless you want to. Yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of like Unity. You could make a game out of pure C# in Unity, I think. Again, I've never really delved too deep into Unity. I tried to use it to create. It actually had a version of Deeper created in Unity, but it was taking so long to achieve the tiniest little things. Depends on the game, my friend. It's different people have achieved it in different ways. Like I've showed you my animations just there. It really depends on the game and the engine and where the person's breathing. You know, if it's in a static image or something like that. Hey man, there's never you can never have too many tutorials. I know that some people will rant and rave about people who make tutorials on YouTube saying, oh, you're all just making the same videos, but what I might see in my Google results may not be the same as somebody else. So, you know, the more options there are for people to find, the more information that's available. You can have animations, you just have to render them all. If you watch the video that I uploaded today about, not the, well, feel free to watch the Subnautica one, but the animation, the video I showed with how to use video. You can declare video files as images and just show them the same way that you would images. So you could have a full video sort of platform if you wanted to using Ren'Py. It's just obviously going to be a massive game because of all the video files. Even if they're in OGV format, you're still going to be looking at hundreds of megabytes for very short sequences. A lot of devs do refuse to help out new devs, and I think it's because a lot of guys are very insecure about their own positions, because every job, and take it from me as someone who's a professional photographer, and I've had to start for the last year working in a supermarket to make ends meet, because work is getting more and more hard to come by, more and more difficult to come by, because there's just so many people out there trying everything. Everyone's desperate to make money these days, and so a lot of creative types in particular are very sort of insecure about helping other people do their job. For me, photography, game development, it's all the same thing. Is that I figure I'm not trying to help people with a view to making money from it. If I make money from YouTube, then fantastic, but I just figure competition is good. It makes everybody try harder. It makes everybody increase the standard of what they do. There's too many photographers out there at the moment who half-ass it because they've gotten complacent in their job. They figure, oh well, everyone knows who I am, I'll just phone it in. And having a bit of competition gives those people a kick up the arse and makes them work for their living, you know. So, Thunder question. Images RPA. Have you ever had to change the setting? Yeah. So, if you want all of your image files, all of your files in an RPA document, that is in your options file, and you can see here I've got like basically MP3, OGV, OGG, RPYC, RPYB, PNG, JPEG, HTML and text go into the documentation folder. But basically I'm just saying I'm having all of these files included in the game archive. To be honest, it's not really that big of a deal, because Ren'Py, there's like un-RPA documents out there everywhere on the internet now, so people can break in to your game files like so easily. It's almost not worth archiving them. I just do it for ease, really. WebM OGV, yeah, I mean WebM is better to detail than big files. OGV are really small files. It depends on how big you anticipate most of your players are going to be playing the game. I've made all of my images 1080p just in case people play them full screen. But as far as I understand it, most people don't play it full screen. Population, politics and pollution. Yeah, I think it's just the way things are going now with social media. Information is so easy to come by. People have options. You used to, before the internet, and even for the first 10 years after the internet was kind of a big deal. People, for example, a local wedding photographer would be, once they've been around for a while, people know who they are, and they'd get kind of like first come first serve on all the work. And if you wanted to get into wedding photography, you'd have to find somebody who was willing to let you work with them for a while until you got a reputation. These days with the internet, you can go and find a model to do a trade shoot with you and make up a load of pretend wedding photographs, stick them on the internet, and no matter how bad they are, if you're saying I'll do this for $400 or $200, people are going to hire you. So there's, the market's wide open. There's a lot of competition. Yeah, you can do. Sorry, I'm kind of responding to comments quite slowly here, but yeah, you can, do a PNG render set and turn them into either a video, or you can use the film strip method that I'm using for these animations, only because it allows you to have transparency without having to mess around with masking and all that sort of thing. Yeah, exactly. I'd never want people to think that I'm implying that my way is the best way of doing anything, or that there's not better ways. Like, I use Cesium to compress all of my images, that isn't to say that it's the only image compression tool that works or anything like that, because Cesium doesn't really compress PNG files. It's terrible at it. Photoshop is actually more effective at compressing PNG files than Cesium is. So it just depends on what you're used to and what tools you've got available to you and all that sort of thing. As to, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Like if I put animations in for every single sort of idle character when they're in a scene, that's going to add 500 megabytes to my game file size easily. Yeah, we've all been there. Sensei, where you make even now that animation I've just put in the game I'm not happy with because their top's doing something weird, which means I haven't done the. Let me just check I've got the animation still set up. Yeah, I need to do a simulation for a top for every frame, which I haven't done, so I could actually be doing that now, to be fair. Use timeline play range, blah 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 blah. Initialization time, we'll call that 0.5 seconds. Frames per second multiplier, that's fine. So let that simulate while I'm talking to you guys. There's no shame in going back and redoing your old renders. I'm doing that with Deeper at the moment. I'm gradually working my way through all the renders that I did. Is that done already? Jeebus. That's surprisingly fast. I suppose it was only 8 frames. Right, let's see. Render settings, image series, JCappy, blah 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 blah. Bang that out. Yeah, I'm redoing all the renders from Deeper slowly because I'm much better at DAZ now than I was back then 2 years ago. Nothing wrong with having standards, my friend. Even though probably 75% of the people that play your game now probably wouldn't care. Well, you look all right. Let's not beat around the bush. We're all, or at least certainly the ones of us that are taking part in the conversation. Not everyone who's watching this maybe had some exposure to adult VNs and adult games. You look at a game like Big Brother, and by today's standards, by the standards of the renders that I'm putting out now, that game looks like garbage. They're clean renders, but the characters look plastic. The scenes just don't look realistic at all. And yet there are still people out there who maintain that it was one of the best looking games ever. And I just refuse to accept that because it just wasn't. It's you've got to move with the times, man. I'm sure that if DS was still working on that particular game, he'd probably be redoing render. Well, maybe he wouldn't. He wasn't putting that much effort in when he was making the game, but personally, I'm like you, I can't accept ugly renders if I know I can do better now, and that's why I'm working my way back through redoing them all. But in a way it kind of moves in parallel with the way that the glamour photography thing works. Like, I've made money over the years from doing glamour photography, but there's just no money in it anymore because the majority of dudes who are looking at these glamour pictures really aren't that interested in the quality of the photograph. All they're interested in is how much of they can see of the girl and what the girl's doing, which is why selfie porn is so popular at the moment. The bubble will burst eventually, but sites like OnlyFans are successful for the time being, and it's the same with the Pornhub thing. It's all, vertical video, selfie looking stuff, because that's what people are doing at the moment. So that's why webcamming is so popular. The dudes who look at it don't really care too much about the quality, so it's more a case of professional pride in making sure your renders look good. If I'm talking gibberish, please feel free to tell me to shut up. The rendering has finished. Marvellous. These are only my opinions, by the way. I'm certainly not stating any of these things like they're fact. It's just kind of how I feel like I've observed over the years doing these things. And like I said many times over the course of these live streams and that, if you look at most of the adult games that are popular out there, the actual visuals aren't that impressive. They're just... And I suppose to a certain extent, it's the idea of giving the player some imagination to do, you know. Alrighty, so we have to do this again now. New file. Same again. I ruined your animations. Oh, which video did you watch from 2018? I can't even remember. Did I make videos in 2018? Well, yeah, that's very true, Sensi. That's very true. One of my old videos in 2018. Gosh, you got me thinking about what video it must have been. I can't even remember what content I was making in 2018. May 2018. What video was that? Is it still on my channel or did I delete it? I think I deleted a lot of my old content. Oh, right, yes, I remember now. It was, yeah, I was talking about, it was one of my live streams, and I was talking about how some of the animations in certain adult games look like, yeah, they look like two toasters clonking together with a pair of water balloons stuck to the front of them. Or words to that effect, anyway. Yes, I remember. Just to be clear, the only reason I haven't got my face on the live stream at the moment is because it's pitch black and lighting. The loop you were discussing. How about it just goes over and over and over again? Yeah, it's pitch black here, so you wouldn't even be able to see me even if I did have my webcam on. Yeah, I'm an ugly bastard, so so it's probably best to keep my face off camera. Yeah, so yeah, something about looping and all that stuff. It's people when they're on the job, they don't mechanically go backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards in the same motion for 10 minutes. It's every thrust and motion is different. Yeah, exactly. It is lazy. I think if you're going to do, like, you look at those videos that I was talking about last week, from that I can't remember his name now. He does the SFM animations, like, you know, it maybe he said it takes like 30 hours for 30 seconds of animation or something wacky like that. But you put in the effort and you get the results. These adult devs who just chuck animations in for the sake of chucking them in. It is hard graft, it is, especially in Daz Studio, because Daz Studio is not designed for animation. It really isn't. But it's capable of doing animations, so we have to just kind of tolerate it. So back through this process again. 0, 0, 0. Clonk. 0, 0, 0. 1080. What I will do when I'm off camera is I will spend some time trying to work out why the automation in Photoshop mucks up this so that it's a little bit less crap. Do you know what? I didn't buy a single thing for Black Friday. I 1080 times 2 is 2160. I haven't had enough of a time. I figured once I start getting a bit of support, or once the channel gets monetized, I can start investing in third-party products and that, but it hasn't happened quite as much as I was hoping, so I'm just gonna have to hang on a minute, what am I on? 1080 2160 3240 4320. Well, I started up a GoFundMe, but then immediately afterwards I just started getting pangs of guilt, because I just thought nobody's got the kind of money to throw around that anyone's going to be able to, you know, willy-nilly throw hundreds of dollars my way. So I thought I'll just wait until the channel starts making a bit of money, and then I'll see if I can afford those RTX 2080s or not. We'll see what happens. But yeah, for Black Friday, you know, I've had to be very careful. 6480. No, that's 3480. Your Pillock. 6480. 7560. It's far too much mental arithmetic having to happen here on a Sunday evening. Good lord. Right, so I noticed that there was that thing going on. So what I might do is, if I hopefully it won't come to that, my friend, but I appreciate the thought. Right, oh crap, no, that's not what I want to do. I want to, if I select all of them, and then I do this, and I clip the shadow off there. Got no idea if that worked or not. It's far too late on a Sunday evening for me to actually have to use my brain, so let's find out. Yeah, I did, to be fair, when I first started developing Deeper, I did get up to the point where I was getting like $350 a month on Patreon, and I invested a lot of money in like third-party products then. But since Patreon pulled the plug, it's been kind of a bit more difficult. The one that was leaked, yeah, that was nowhere near playable. I was in the middle of what I'm doing is I'm uploading a weekly version for $40+ supporters on Subscribestar, but that's literally whatever the game state is on the day that I release it. It's not like I'm playtesting it to check or anything like that. So, and then someone leaked that version because I accidentally made it available to all supporters and not just the $40+ supporters. And so yeah, the version that's currently available on F95 forums it doesn't even, I'm not even entirely sure it loads. I have done a public release of a playtest version today that's out for $5 plus subscribers, and then it'll be available to the public in a couple of days time, which is actually playable and has some of these animations in, but it's got a long way to go. I'm trying to get all of the renders that I've got currently done redone, add animations where I can, just to make the game feel a little bit more complete. Then I'm going to focus on adding a lot more new content, but I think the game engine now is in a pretty good place. Right, let's have a go and see. Load this one. So it takes a few seconds to load, well, it's like half a second. Then we get the animation there. Race through this and skip on to the afternoon. So I'll save that now and don't save over the top of it again. Alright, so yeah, now the animation, the top isn't going wacky during the animation. It's still different to how the final render is. Actually, I could just... Yeah, it is buggy. It's very buggy, like I was saying, to do so many different things. Yeah, that animation looks much better. Feet are sort of just moving a little bit. She's breathing. All I've got to do now is change the actual static render so that it matches the top position. But yeah, that's good. Happy with that. Huzzah. So we've got about 19 minutes left now, guys. So if you've got any more questions you want to fire my way. Oh, thanks. It's been a long time since anyone's commented on the UI, to be honest. It took me a couple of days to build it because I spent a lot of time trying out different ideas. I probably should. Sorry, I was just drinking some Coke. I probably should use some squish morphs. I just generally just tend to think about it when someone's in that position. Where would their bones be resting on the surface? I did that video a couple of weeks ago about creating indentations on surfaces. Yeah, it'll be the same time next Sunday, my friend. I'll probably try and throw one in midweek. I am trying to do 2 a week. I'm not so far unsuccessfully because there always seems to be something else happening because I'm trying to make videos and trying to get my own content done. I think it's one of those things, Sensi, that it's very easy to screw it up. It's probably easier just to, yeah, possibly a patience thing. I don't know about skill. I mean, morphs are morphs. Oh, it's very kind of you, Mr. House. With stuff like morphs, they're very specific to the character that they were molded on and the pose that they were in at the time. So it's probably better to try and play with your own deformers rather than just buy someone else's morphs, because the morph is never going to be exactly what you want it to be. You could be trying to use Charlotte 8 when the poses were made for when it was a morph made for Victoria 8 and she was in a different pose, so it's just not going to match up and it's just going to feel weird. There's a product called what's it called, Breastacular? Yeah, like, God, some of the expressions that you get, they look comical when you apply them to the wrong character because they just, the facial structure is entirely different. And that's one of the things I would say about FaceGen. I've used FaceGen to create characters in the past, and it's great for characters who are basically going to be robots and do very little with their face, but expressions almost never work properly on them. Yeah, it almost always makes them look like there's something wrong with them. How to live like the other half do. Speaking of which, actually, I know it's a complete change of topic, but it was thinking about rich people. Is that on Marcia Shellberg, PewDiePie's wife's Instagram, she posted that they got burgled a couple of days ago, which is a real shame. Like, I genuinely do feel bad for them. I've been burgled a couple of times in my life, and the feeling is awful. Do you model your own morphs, or do you prefer some good pre-made ones? It depends on what I'm using them for, really, my friend. If it's, you know, I do use ZBrush, because I'm not a published artist on the Daz Studio store. I don't have access to the high resolution morph kit, so there's only so much you can actually do on a base resolution mesh, so it's sort of limited. So if I find something on the Daz store that looks vaguely like it'll be useful to me, then I'll buy it, but it's sort of a 50-50 thing, really. Yeah, so Pewds hasn't mentioned it on his Instagram, Twitter, or his channel or anything, but yeah, Marcia mentioned it, and they've not had much luck there. House flooded for like a week, and yeah, so not the best of luck in the Shellberg house at the moment. I feel bad for them. I know a lot of people maybe don't like Pewds, or think that because he's a millionaire he doesn't deserve sympathy or anything, but you know, that's pretty rough for anybody. Face Transfer Unlimited. I haven't used that one. It's another one of those things I should probably give it some look when I can, because that's a premium one, isn't it? You have to pay for it. You get like the basic version, but you have to buy like the better version. That was back from, that's a hangover from the T-Series battling days. Everyone was putting subscribe to PewDiePie on everything, so I thought I'd jump on the bandwagon, and yeah, that was funny. People did get carried away doing that, though. I felt, again, put Pewds in a really awkward position, because people were starting to be a bit racist, and it's not cool. The guy isn't racist, and he gets enough bad press from silly things that he said in the past in jest, and people have taken too seriously. So yeah, I'm glad he put a stop to that, because it got really out of hand. But because of my following Pewds, I'm now a fan of Jacksepticeye and Mr. Beast and all those kind of things. People that I was completely unaware of until I started watching PewDiePie videos. I think we all live in hope that one day Mr. Beast will just descend on us and give us a check for 100 grand like he does in his videos. Chances of that are 1 in a trillion, though, so. Just over 10 minutes left now, guys, so yeah, feel free to throw any questions or anything. If you've sent me an email, it's since the last images that I looked at, I'll do those in the next one, just because I haven't got my email client open at the moment, and so yeah, I'll do those next week. But thanks for sending in the ones that you've sent in so far, guys. They've all been really good. I look forward to seeing more of them next week. Maybe it'll become a bit of a regular thing, me looking at people's renders, and gives me a chance to look at people's work, and it also gives me a chance to promote other people's work as well. Game developer in the making advice. Oh, I would say, oh yeah, within reason I'll look at an animation. Yeah, obviously has to be YouTube friendly, obviously. I would say the main piece of advice I would give to any developer starting out is take all your feedback with a massive pinch of salt. Don't let people's negativity bring you down. The first release of every game is always buggy. It's always going to be attacked for not having enough content, or for people not liking the content you put in it, because people are going to play it not knowing what to expect. Yeah, don't get butthurt, because people don't know what to expect when they first play the game, so they're going to play it, and if they don't like the content, because it's the internet, they're going to feel like their opinion is massively more valid than everyone else's, and they're going to feel the need to tell you exactly what they think. And yeah, like F95 used to be the more forgiving one. I suppose it probably still is, but there's going to be people that are going to throw crap your way, and you've just got to learn to absorb it and move on. And people feel the need to tell you why they don't want to play your game. Like Sensei's saying, like, oh, this has got blah blah, this has got NTR in it, so I'm not going to play it. I'm like, I don't care why you don't want to play it. I'm more interested in knowing what the people who are going to play it like about it. You know, the things that they want me to do more of. Yeah, yeah. If you've got NTR in your game and you don't announce it, then there's been a few people who've been absolutely torn apart on Patreon for it. It's pathetic, but unfortunately that's the way it is. We're in the Wild West. Because nobody wants to hold up their hands and take responsibility for our industry. No one wants to. They don't want to police it because they don't want to be associated with it. It's kind of sad, but it is what it is. So yeah, just that's the main piece of advice I'd say. And don't change your game based on the negative people. Don't suddenly rush and put a load of content in because people are complaining that it's not there. Like Timestamps is one of my favourite adult games from its visual point of view. But I was disappointed when the dev rushed to put shagging content in it because everyone was moaning that there wasn't enough of it, and it was like, dude, just make your own game, put it in at your own pace, people will wait as long as it's worth the wait. But he didn't. He rushed to sort of shoehorn it in, and it sort of it spoiled it a little bit for me, because it was like these time glitches that you experience in the game, suddenly you're getting a sex scene out of nowhere, and it's like, well, there was no work involved in that. Yeah, exactly. Don't redo your game. Just make your game how you want it to be. Some people will dislike it. Most people will like it. And people will play it. The majority of people who give you feedback will be the people who either loved it or hated it. The people who are kind of, yeah, that's a good game. They're not going to say anything. They're the silent majority. Exactly. Don't build your game on consensus. Do it how you want to do it. Sometimes listening to feedback's good, other times it's not. You look at, for example, the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. They listened to the fans because they made Sonic look absolutely appalling, and now everyone loves it because they made a change. But that was a different kind of situation, is that Sonic's already a a beloved character, and what they tried to do was reinvent the wheel, which just is a stupid idea. He did. He looked absolutely awful. I don't know what they were thinking. It's same as everything, man. Like, for example, there's someone who, I upload my tutorial videos. I'm not looking for a pat on the back. I'm not looking for I'm not looking for anything really. I just want to make my videos, and if they're useful to people, that's great. And I don't see that there's anything to dislike in them, but there's always that one person who dislikes it. Like, there's someone who's disliked this stream for whatever reason. Some people just do that because they like being disruptive. Going back to what I was saying ages ago about Big Brother and other games like that, they're kind of the exception that proves the rule, because, like I said, by today's standards, now that people are getting better at using DAS, the game isn't very attractive, but it's still a good game in that it captured people's imaginations enough that people liked it, you know. Sometimes the visuals aren't super important, but like I said, people still use it as a benchmark, and I don't think it should be used as the benchmark for how attractive a game should be anymore, because it's not very, you know, by today's standards. Kind of like the Terry Pratchett novels, how they're all different but they're all tied together. That's cool, man. Yeah. And some of it's luck, man. Like, if you were to look objectively at Big Brother, and I use that because it's the one that everyone seems to know. If you look objectively at it, the storyline isn't very inspired. The plot devices aren't that inspired either. The renders weren't that great. It was just okay, but it just seemed to hit a nerve at the right time with the right people, and it got crazy popular. But now, you know, since he abandoned it, everyone was like massively peed off about it. I don't want to end the stream talking about someone else's game. I only brought it up as an example, as an answer to someone else's question. So, yeah, alright. Thank you very much to everybody who's come along today, even the guy who's disliked the stream. Always welcome. If I say something that you disagree with, jump in on the chat and talk to me about it. That's what we're here for. It's great to have a conversation with everybody. Send me your renders, let me have a look at them. And yeah, me too. You too, Mr. House. I hope you have a good week too, my friend. I'm always keen to hear what other people have to say about it. We don't always agree, but that's the beauty of being adults. We can have a conversation about it. I hope you've all found something vaguely useful in this stream. image for the main menu. Okie dokie. So, in the oh Christ, I've got to remember myself now. I think it's in the GUI file, GUI.rpy. And if I go to menu, you've got that's your menu text color. So yeah, like if you just search for menu in your GUI file, main menu background, you've got your main menu background files there, and your game menu background files there. You can change your fonts, your choices. But yeah, that's where it is for the image. And then I think in the screens.rpy file, if you actually go to the navigation menu, which is like there. Oh, it's not navigation, is it? It's main menu, because it's navigation area is main menu. So you can set up your main menu stuff in here as well. But yeah, in the GUI file is where you'll choose the background image. Thank you all for coming, man. I've genuinely enjoyed doing these every week. I'm sort of, they're slowly taking shape, you know, the content that I'll put in the streams moving forward. Obviously, I'll look at people's renders, those of them that sent them in. You know, talk about what I've been doing in terms of my own game development, and hopefully go through stuff that people haven't, you know, experienced yet. See you later, Hella7. Rufus, if that doesn't work for you, feel free to drop me a comment and I'll have a look and the code again. It's quite late on a Sunday night, so my brain's a bit frazzled. So maybe I'm giving you, but that's the first place I'd look. Don't tell your wife that. Good Lord, no. Anyway, guys, as always, it's been a pleasure. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon.